And we're back with another episode of Lakers Weekend. It's Gerald Glassford coming right back at you here from Lakers Fast Break, Pop Culture Cosmos, where we cover the latest news and trends in pop culture each and every week, twice a week, wherever you get your podcast, but also as well inside sports, fantasy football, where we're covering week 10 in the NFL. Go ahead and join me and Chris Sardieri on this week's episode as we talk the world of fantasy football right there for you at Inside Sports Fantasy Football. Don't forget our friend Joe. Good friend Joe. You can find him, Ox1947 at LakersBall.com. Plus, of course, he has a great company you need to support if you're in the Southern California area. Simblades. Simblades with a Y.com. And of course, our good friends right here, Laker Tom, the number one Lakers blogger that's out there. And of course, Jamie Sweet, the recent birthday boy with his 5 Things articles. Hopefully he'll be joining us today as well. Those guys that can be found at Lakerholics.com. Please go ahead and check out what they're saying today about the Lakers, especially after a brilliant Cam Reddish performance. Go ahead and check it out today at Lakerholics.com. Also, as well, want to go ahead and mention some great people out there, including, of course, what you want to go ahead and talk about when it comes to Empire Jeff TV, Daniel Berry Sports Highlights, Lakers in 5, and the John McCallion channel. Support all those great YouTube channels. And speaking of supporting channels, please support our channel with a like and a follow on Facebook, or go ahead and make sure you subscribe today. Hit that little Joe. Hit the little Joe with the beady eyes right below Laker Tom. You'll be subscribed to us right here at the Lakers Fast Break Podcast. Well, the Lakers, after a thrilling 122-119 victory yesterday over the Phoenix Suns, head home. Not exactly the way that they planned their road trip with 1-3. But it is, a win for the Lakers heading back home for tomorrow's game against the Portland Trailblazers. So I wanted to go ahead. We can talk about the players and all that, but after a 4-5 start, after another struggling start to the season, my question is, the spotlight, is it getting a little bit hotter for Darvin Ham and his performance so far this season? Because it reminds me of what happened last season as far as him struggling out of the gate. And here today to discuss that, good man indeed. He is one half of the tag team duo that you find on Lakerholics.com 7 days a week. It is Laker Tom, the number one Lakers blogger that's out there. Laker Tom, great to have you here. Dante, also great to have you here, and everybody else in the chat, also as well, the best Lakers chat room that's out there, the Lakers Fast Break. Laker Tom, I put the Lakerholics Spotlight on Darvin Ham because in recent days, the whispers and the shouts like last year, fire Ham, fire Ham, fire Ham this time last year, got almost as loud once again with fire Ham after that disaster in Houston. Your thoughts on Darvin Ham's coaching so far before we get into the players and what's going on with the team for the Lakers this season?
Well, I've had my differences with Darvin in the past, and I have to say that I've been pleasantly surprised that while he doesn't make the decisions that I think he should make as soon as he should make them, he ultimately seems to get to the right decision. I think many of us want him to go big. It seems like the team plays better when we go big. Mm-hmm. And whether it's 3 guards or, the players that he's given by Rob Pelinka, Darvin likes to go small. I thought we saw some signs in the last game that were really important because he made a move on the bench that was kind of a gutsy move because he pretty much benched Austin Reeves, much the same way as he benched Russell Westbrook. For the good of the team, calling it not a demotion, but a realignment. And I think that what's surprising, and we talked about this before the show, that something sort of clicked in my mind once he did that, because it's a move that it's a move I didn't want to make. I was actually recommending that they bench Russell instead. Russell's the short-term contract. Reeves is a long-term contract. But Reeves has has experience coming off the bench, and he's also very adaptable. He can play with almost any lineup, so it made sense. And the second part of that whole equation is, why is Reddish starting? And I think, and why is the move to Reeves to the bench? I think what I'm seeing being done, and I like it a lot, because I think it's one of those situations where Ham is taking it step by step by step, but the lineup that he's ultimately going for is going to be a big three lineup with hopefully Jared Vanderbilt and Cam Reddish as the two-guard rotation. And that is a big lineup. If you eventually follow that with Wood or Hayes starting at center and Prince going off of the bench, then you're looking at a lineup that, at least before the trade deadline, is going to be Russell, Vanderbilt, James, Davis, and let's say Wood. Although I think he could even start Hayes, and there's a reason for doing that, just to give Hayes those minutes that he used to get in the 2020 championship team, where those went to JaVale McGee, or eventually to Dwight Howard. So I think that the Lakers are making moves to go big and go defense first, and I think that hey, it paid off wonderful. We saw a game that was just almost miraculous, the way that the Lakers took the lead in the first few minutes of the fourth quarter. We saw LeBron come and repeat that same move that was so widely criticized, of passing to a wide open Cam Reddish in the corner. And this time, like LeBron said would happen, Reddish canned that three that sealed the game. It's interesting that they called timeout in order to get 3 points, because of this whole point spread, I guess, is part of the tie-breaking situation.
It is.
Season tournament, and so instead of a 122 to 116 victory, we have a 122 to 119 victory on probably the most simple play that almost every team runs, which is that the inbounder steps inbounds and shoots a three. And we didn't cover that at all. That was terrible defense. But it was an inspired, I thought what was interesting about it is that it was a great balance. D'Lo got to start. Reeves had to come off the bench. Reeves got to finish, and D'Lo sat the fourth quarter out and rooted for him the entire time. Ran over to congratulate Reddish on his three-pointer to cinch the game. That was the kind of win that just reinstalled the faith that we had after all of the trades this summer and so forth. And now we're looking at a 7-game stretch of games that we should win. We could actually end up being 11-5 after the next 7 games if we really could put it together and perform, and I think part of that is getting healthy. We had great games from Hachimura. We had great games from Wood. We had great games from Reddish. Those are the kind of games that we really needed. AD still struggled a little bit, but came through in the fourth quarter when we needed it. I still believe very strongly that the 5-out is not a good offensive set for us, simply because we don't have anybody of the 5 guys that are out there that can beat their man off the dribble and go all the way to the basket. A young LeBron could. The current LeBron we have, can do it if he can run over somebody. But Reeves and Russell are not those kinds of players, and we really don't have the Dennis Schroeders and the guys who can attack the rim and are almost impossible to stop one-on-one on a 5-out. So I think eventually we're going to see more 4-out. I thought too that the switching over where we just move 3 guys to the other side of the court and let Reeves and LeBron run the 2-man game, that made a big difference. That was a lot of what was happening, and playing with size. We had LeBron and AD and Reeves, and then 2 of 4 big forwards. That that ranged from 6'7" to Woods 6'11", so we had a lot of size out there and still basically tied in the rebounding situation. So it wasn't like, we were dominating anybody, but it's a first step in the right direction. We got to win. We're facing 7 teams now that we should be able to win 7 games in a row, make it an 8-game win streak, if you will. And hopefully we won't be looking at the situation that we were last year. A few wins and all of a sudden things will look a lot rosier. And as to the original question, I don't, it's yesterday, I think, was the anniversary of Mike Brown's firing. I think that brought all of this up, but I don't think that Darvin Ham is in any danger at all of being fired at this point in time. And I do think that one of the reasons is that even though Darvin has his own opinions and sometimes we may not agree with them, the thing I think is important about him as a coach is he's always been open to his staff and the front office talking to him about certain things. And I think he made a move that was really his own move to bench Reeves and start Reddish. And I do think it is a placeholder for Vanderbilt to be the starting shooting guard going forward.
Once again, it is, of course, Lakerholics Spotlight. The spotlight is on Darvin Ham. So go ahead and join us each and every time out at Lakerholics.com, where the guys go ahead and go back and forth on whatever the issues that are laying down at Lakerholics, just right there for you. The Lakerholics are right there for you at Lakerholics.com. And also here today, good man indeed. He is the recent birthday boy and a guy who, I tell you what, he's rushed back in after swim practice. It is a good man indeed. It is Jamie Sweet, a.k.a. Yami Swoot, a.k.a. Admiral Akbar. Jamie, great to have you here, my friend, talking Darvin Ham. The spotlight's on him before we get into the players and all that stuff going on. The team, another 4-5 start, struggling, basically, is what I'm trying to say. Year in, year out so far with Darvin Ham. After the disaster in Houston, a lot of calls for Darvin Ham's outing once again, as we saw this time last year. He did make a change. He put Austin to the bench.
Yeah.
It did work out, but I can't expect just, shout out to Riddell, who actually I didn't hear from today as far as his daily complaints against Cam Reddish. Funny, I didn't see an email from him today on that. LakersFastBreak at yahoo.com. But
now you
I will say, I'm not
forthwith now.
Yes, exactly. But I'm just with Cam Reddish, you can't expect this to be in every game happening. And if anybody does, they are just kidding themselves. But what I didn't like after the game was Darvin Ham's comments comparing the situation with Austin Reeves and comparing him to Manu Ginobili.
Sure.
And I was not exactly thrilled by doing that because it's these comparisons that annoy me. Let the kid play like Austin Reeves. He's not Manu Ginobili. Manu Ginobili is in the Hall of Fame.
Right.
You have Austin Reeves. Yes. Austin Reeves is coming off the bench for a reason, and they're not the greatest reasons in the world because of his defense. So I ask you, my friend, Darvin Ham, again, for me, it's been a mixed bag so far. He's been nicknamed Pockets by our audience and by Joe, just for obvious reasons. If you understand, he has his hands in his pockets all the time. He finally started calling his timeouts instead of taking him home with him on the bus ride home like he usually does.
Yeah.
So I ask you, my friend, Darvin Ham's performance so far, not been the greatest, but do you see signs of hope when it comes to him this season?
Well, part of the issue here is the tools that he has to work with. From the beginning of camp, from the middle of summer, pretty much, I think pretty much everybody on the podcast at least once has brought up how thin we are at the guard position, that we were putting a lot on the shoulders of Max Christie, and frankly, banking on Austin maintaining, if not improving, his level of play out of the gate. And neither one of those things panned out. Christie looks overwhelmed. Austin looks like he did at the beginning of last season. He looks a little run down. some people do, get a lot of juice out of World Cup competing against on the international stage. Austin looks like he kind of got beat up a little bit, and he's still trying to recover from those last couple of games where he looked a little bit more like a mere mortal in World Cup and FIBA.
Well, it doesn't help when every single team's offense is focused around picking on him,
Well,
which it
that's
seemed
part of
like the first 8
yeah.
games of the season.
And Sam Quinn, I think, brought that up in a tweet or an article or some such, and I think it's an astute observation. Yeah, I mean, he's your weakest. He's going to be your weakest link on the guard position at defense. Even D'Lo, I think, is a little bit more able to defend at a high level because he's quicker, like naturally quicker. I think Austin has great instincts for defense. His body he's not Caruso. People keep trying to compare this guy to Caruso. It's the same with Ginobili. Don't compare him to anybody else. He's Austin Reeves. Caruso is a wizard on defense, and he sells out on every play. Austin's not selling out on. Nobody on the Lakers is selling out on every play. That's part of the problem. So we don't have a guy like that on the court. Reddish ain't that guy. Wood ain't that guy. LeBron is certainly not that guy. We don't want AD to be that guy. Reeves ain't that guy. D'Lo ain't that guy. That's your first 8 players off the bench right there. There's nobody who's diving for loose balls. There's nobody who's throwing.
Vanderbilt's that guy,
but he's not. But he's not playing.
Right.
I would love for him to be playing, but he's not. So that's to me is the biggest. Everything I look at, every issue I see the Lakers having this early in the season comes down to 2 things: an over expecting guys to either continue playoff level basketball or taking a step forward, like a monumental step forward, not just like you worked on a spin move in the paint, cute, but like, you went from a 13-point a game score to a 20-point game. That's a huge leap to ask a guy like Reeves to make, or Reddish, who's never found a consistent role in the NBA to this day. And to me, I think Darvin Ham, I think people are right. I think that the front office would like for Cam Reddish to be a smaller version of Vando. I don't know that Cam's got that in him. I think that he's, he had a great game last night. I feel like he gets up against Durant. His 2 best games as a Laker have been against the Warriors. One of those was in preseason, I believe. Or maybe it was game number. I can't remember when the other game was. No, it was at Staples when he played like 7 minutes of okay defense, and everybody lost their minds because it looked like he had figured something out. But then he disappeared for the next 4 games, and so that doesn't cut it. You can't just get up for one guy. There's another game just around the corner, another all-star player, another potential Hall of Famer that you're going to have to lock up. And that's the kind of focus that Vando does show up with. He doesn't care if he doesn't score a single point, and that's rare in the NBA. That mentality, you can't coach that. You can't just tell a guy to go be like that. People kind of are how they are. Joe likes to rant. We're not going to tell Joe that he can't rant anymore. Why would we? Why would you try to, color somebody a different color than what they are? Let them be who they are. Let them be the best version of who they are. And I don't know what that looks like for Cam Reddish. I mean, I think that ultimately what we'll see is either Prince or Reddish stick in that 2 spot when Vando comes back, and they'll put Vando at the 2-3, and it doesn't matter. They're interchangeable. We're just labeling something to put them on the floor. Maybe Vando starts at 2. It doesn't really matter. But I think that because of Reeves is basically the second best playmaking guard on the team at this point. It's not Hood Schifino. It's not Christie. Those guys are unreliable. You can't put championship hopes on the shoulders of those 2 players. You're foolish to try. Anybody is. That's just ludicrous. And so I thought that what Ham said was, and I get the annoyance of the comparison to Ginobili, but I think the philosophy is a sound one, that you can't sub out 2 or 3 guys and suddenly have nobody who can make a play, and just a bunch of shooters and AD. AD won't. No, it's not feasible, and that's what was happening. We were either kind of close in the LeBron minutes in the first quarter, or we were getting outshot, and then the bench would come in and the lead would either balloon, or we would go down 7, 8, 9 points, and then we'd kind of like keep up to that level, but still just always 7, 8, 9, 10 double digit a little bit points behind. And then it just took a little run sometime in the 3rd or the 4th, and then we were down 16, 17 points, and there's the game. And that was basically how all the losses went. If LeBron went out and we didn't have a lead, which we usually didn't, then we quickly gave it up and turned around and looked at a deficit, so that when he comes back, he's working uphill. And this is the problem, right? Like LeBron is the other problem that I think we're going through is LeBron starts slow. He starts the season slow. He starts the game slow. He's 40 years old. He's coming up on 39 years old, people. Like, it's okay.
He scored 27 points in 24 minutes, leading into the fourth quarter. That doesn't sound like a slow start to me.
But look at his first quarter splits. His first quarter switch, he doesn't usually shoot the ball a lot. He definitely isn't driving to the rim. He's not forcing the defenses to.
It's about trying to get AD into the game. I get that.
I just think
about pacing himself also.
I think he's pacing himself. I think he knows that this team is going to need him in the fourth quarter, and that he wishes other guys would step up in the first half. Really, the whole first half. I think he'd be just fine taking like 5 or 6 shots for the entire first half. Getting a board here, getting an assist here. Forcing a man to guard him all the time when he has the ball. But like, this isn't the LeBron of old. And the one thing that I think the one tool in the box that we haven't really used at all, and I only assume this is because LeBron doesn't want to be used in this manner, is LeBron in the post. I do not understand why this team does not put LeBron in the post 5 times a game and lets him function from the elbow. I don't understand.
That's a coaching issue.
It's not just him. It was Frank. It's the last like 6 LeBron James coaches, I feel like. And so I just feel like it's something that LeBron.
He's only 6'9", 270. So I don't know.
Yeah,
not like he's that strong or anything.
with incredible footwork and
he's unstoppable in the post. You're right, Jamie. And
I just don't get it. I don't get it. I don't understand why this tool is consistently and repeatedly left in the toolbox.
We went through a period where we were playing the 4 out with LeBron in the dunker spot. And man, that's unstoppable with 4 shooters on the outside and LeBron down low.
Yeah.
He was just eating people up.
The problem with our new 5 out set is, I think Tom was alluding to this a little bit, is that we just don't have.
Yeah. Who's going to beat your guy to go to the rim? Yeah, you beat your guy, you got a straight line to the rim.
But we also don't have good enough shooting.
We don't have good enough shooters. We don't have good enough drivers. We don't have good enough playmakers. That's
it's hard to drive when they sag off you 15 feet because you can't shoot.
It's unfortunate. But who could? It's unfortunate that we took this long. I wonder what we would have done last season with Russ if they had let Russ, because Russ can get to the rim. That's not a problem.
Yeah,
it's that you don't want him to shoot it once he gets there.
You can get to the rim. The question is, can he control the ball when he gets there?
Well, you just want him to pass it to somebody who can shoot a shot, and that would have been he would have been better suited for this team this season. But that ship is.
And those are the high percentage 3-point shots are the drive and dish shots.
That's what I'm saying.
We don't get those because nobody drives.
or the wide open shooter clanks it off the rim, and so I mean, in some ways, I feel like this is going to end up being a numbers game. I don't think we can shoot this poorly for an entire season.
No,
I don't think.
Well, we got to play bigger because we need more rebounds. We need more points in the paint. We're not.
Well, I don't think we're going to have this many health issues the entire.
We're not winning the free throw battles like we used to.
Well, we're not driving. That's because we're not generating. We're not getting the ball to the rim. Nobody's getting the ball.
Transition
to
the rim. Is down.
We're playing 5 out so that we don't get beat on transition defense.
Yeah.
I mean.
Yeah, well, that was one of the worst.
Everybody's behind the line.
But that also, Tom, tells you, because of that, 2 of the things that we did well last season, and this is what frustrates me, is, as I've told you, I mean, since you guys have known me since the 2019 season, with LeBron, he thrives in transition.
Yep.
And the pace of the team is down considerably. It's more half-court offense, which the Lakers are one of the worst in the league at, according to the statistics that are out there. And also the number of free throws. When you don't have that pace high, you're not getting to the free throw line as much. And yes, last year, of course, everybody knows a big key to the Lakers season was the disparity that they owned at the free throw line at NBA records. So I ask you guys, should the pace be quickened? Should the pace be speeded up? Because again, easier baskets for the Lakers makes a lot more sense.
Well, they got to get the rebounds first. That's the
this all like ties into one another, right? Like if you're giving up,
It's connected.
Oh, they rebound? Oh, wow.
You would hope. I mean, so that's the thing. If
They
you're
did
giving
last
up,
night either.
Before you run.
it's
problem.
a good bet that if you are, leading the league and giving up second chance points, that you're not able to get out on the break. You can't. How are you getting out on the break? You're not finishing the possession on defense.
But these big lineups should solve the issue, right? But they're not.
No,
that's part of the problem.
Big lineups are doing okay. It's the small lineups that are getting killed. It's the starting lineup.
And none of the big guys we have, other than AD, has a rebounder mentality. Wood's a great rebounder. That's totally wrong. Wood is
he's not so far.
I think he's averaging like 5 rebounds for the season, and he's 7 foot.
Yeah.
Like, listen. Listen. I'm not trying to back. This isn't knocking on anybody.
Well, no, it is knocking. It is knocking somebody.
It's not. These guys are. He's not. He doesn't have a rebouder's mentality.
The Lakers are one of the worst rebounding teams in the NBA. Tom, nobody's doing a great job rebounding outside of AD.
No, I know they aren't, but that doesn't mean that you don't have good rebounders. Anthony Davis, I think, is close to leading the league in rebounding.
He's the only.
I just said outside of AD, nobody else on the team is being a good rebounder this season.
We're not boxing guys out. We're not putting bodies on. This is fundamental basketball that we're not.
I disagree. I think Wood is doing an excellent job rebounding.
The numbers don't show that. But
exactly. The numbers don't show that.
What numbers are you looking at?
Worst offensive rebounding team, defensive rebounding team. Last night, even in a win, they were out rebounded by double digits. Right. Come on, Tom.
There's only one number to look at: rebounds. Okay, we're not winning them, and Wood is not averaging close to double digits like he has for his career. Granted, not in the same role that he's had on other teams, but those are teams like with mostly garbage players, and he was the biggest guy on the team, and they had to play him a lot. So I don't, I'm not expecting a lot out of the minimum salary guys to save the season. It just isn't. It's not feasible. It doesn't work like that in the NBA. And so they're plucky. They're playing as hard as they can.
That's what's working for us right now because it isn't. I know. It isn't the guys that we signed for the MLE and the BAE who are doing the job.
Why didn't they start Hachimura?
That's a good question. Again, I think Rui thrives best coming off the bench, though. I'm going to give Darvin Ham that.
Oh, maybe that's a possibility. I think that they're trying a couple of things. I think they're trying to pump Reddish up. Game-winning shot, missed it. Okay, it's all right, buddy. We still trust you. You're still going to start. You're going to
solve the guard problem. Is what the whole issue is.
But they can't with the players they have. They simply can't.
They can't. Well, they can't continue to play Reeves and. I mean, Ham made the right decision to break up that guard tandem because that guard tandem is not good enough defensively to win games.
Agreed.
And you made an excellent point earlier that I think I want to get back on it, which is also putting both of those guys together in the starting lineup means that somewhere along the line you don't have another playmaker, and you're counting totally on LeBron and staggering the two of them. I think it really helps the playmaking of the team in general.
I agree.
And Reeves, the thing about Reeves is you can punch him into that second lineup, and he could be the key to the second lineup working. So I think Ham made the right moves. And surprisingly, I think they point to playing bigger. I just wish you'd get there sooner, It's just frustrating. You want to see those minutes go up because our identity still is points in the paint and made free throws. We got to win those.
Yeah, we're not.
Because we can't count on our better three-point shooting materializing.
Yeah, but not every day this team's going to shoot 44%.
No. So here's the thing.
So we can't give up those two things, and what makes those two things work is playing big.
I mean, that's a simplistic. I think that's a little bit too simplistic of me. If you play big,
there are other factors, but it's the key. You cannot do that playing a traditional small forward. You have to play two bigs.
You could if the small forward rebounded, or like the late.
But look at who you're matching up against. Over half of the teams now are playing two bigs. So if you go in there with one big against these two big lineups, you're going to get killed.
I mean, it hasn't mattered who we played, right?
Well, yeah, when you shoot as bad as we did in the first 8 games, yeah, it doesn't matter at all.
I mean, the shooting has been a problem, but I think that like the way you win the points in the paint battle isn't just in the half court. We dominated in points in the paint because when we got out on the break last season, we were good, and we got out on the break last season because we generally held the team to one possession. Right. We are not doing that this season.
No.
At all. We are getting annihilated on the
offense. And it's teams are piling on because now they know. Now they're telling all their wing guys, attack every single time. We're not worried about them in transition. We want to kill them on the boards.
Not right.
So how do you respond to that as a coach? You get bigger.
But they've tried that, and it doesn't. That's what I'm saying, Tom.
But all of the lineup, if you look at the lineup data, all of the plus minuses, all of the net ratings are for the teams that are bigger. They're all for two bigs.
No,
the guys who are winning, the guys with the best ratings on the team are Wood. Wood still has the best individual net rating and plus minus on the team.
That's a problem because you have better players than him that should be playing better.
Well, all it's saying is that when he's in the lineup, the team wins. When he's in the lineup, we score more points than the other team. That's what the purpose of the game is.
I'm not going to
get through the peach basket more times than the other goddamn team. Stop screwing around, playing these little lineups and so forth.
But that's the thing. I get back to Darvin Ham.
Play a 3-guard
line. Darvin Ham continually wants to go to smaller lineups. Now, it may be a blessing disguise that Gabe Vincent is out injured because you probably see a lot more small lineups.
Some of it is limited options. Some of it is favoritism of certain players. He likes, and some of it is favoritism toward defense. You know, why does he like Gabe Vincent? Same reason he liked Dennis Schroeder, point of attack defender. You know, he wants that.
Yeah, I don't know that. I mean, listen, health is obviously an issue, right? Yeah. There's 3 guys out who would normally be playing, for sure 2. I think 3. I think Hood Shafino will still get minutes on this team for some reason. I don't understand why.
Yeah,
but I don't agree with it. I'm just saying that it's going to happen.
Well, yeah.
He was getting minutes before he got hurt, so I don't see why that'll change. They're desperately looking for somebody to like shore up the guard position.
I never ever saw what they were saying he was looking so good at doing, because every time we saw him, he looked terrible.
I've never seen one thing that made me go, "Oh, that's NBA ready." Nothing.
Well, he's big. He's big for a guard.
Ish. He's big-ish for a guard. He's not even that big for a guard. He's like what, 6'4"? Yeah. Come on.
Well, I like the idea of. I tell you, I'm really infatuated with the idea that the way to go big is to put Wood and Hayes at center and to put Jared Vanderbilt as the starting 2-guard.
Or Reddish as the 2-guard and whatever. I don't think you're gonna be able to play Wood and AD and Vanderbilt and LeBron in the starting lineup.
Oh, I think you will. And I think when Gabe Vincent comes back, you might even see him slide into the starting lineup.
I doubt that. I think they've got
for defensive purposes. I've always felt the ultimate adjustment to putting Wood in the lineup is the closest thing that we have to Dennis Schroeder right now is Gabe Vincent. And
yeah, but he's not Dennis Schroeder, right? Like he's not
Dennis Schroeder, but if he starts shooting his shot again, I don't know. I don't think Ham wants defenders in the lineup. He wants defenders in the rotation.
I do too, but I think that's just like a complete and utter lack of both foot speed with Wood and LeBron, and lack of scoring with Vincent and Vanderbilt. That's just a lot of offensive load on 3 guys.
Yeah, it is.
And Wood's not a dynamic offensive.
But if Gabe can shoot, like he shot in the playoffs.
But all right.
That changes everything, you know.
Or D'Lo, or any number of players.
Well, for sure, there's no question that our start shooting cost us like 3 or 4 of those losses without a doubt,
easily.
And you know, Here's an interesting thought for you.
Sure.
If the Lakers are really considering starting Vanderbilt or Reddish as the solution at 2, meaning a really big team.
Yep.
The question is, why then does that? In other words, here's the question. I think the Lakers are more interested in turning Vanderbilt into a guard, into the shutdown 2 guard, than they are in going after Alex Caruso, because I think Vanderbilt can be what people envision they could get back with Caruso.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a valid notion. I don't know that that's the exact comparison that they have up on a whiteboard somewhere, but I think that that's the role they envision for Jared Vanderbilt, is hustle energy guy who helps get stopped.
He guards 2s, so if he could play the 2, makes us so much bigger as a team and helps our rebounding, points in the paint, and all of those things.
I think that so to go back to why we're not starting Wood, I think it's because they see him as AD's backup. That's what they
who as AD's backup.
Christian Wood.
Oh, okay.
I don't think that they're going to mess with that. I think that when that doesn't mean that they won't play together, but that they're not going to start together because they want that and they want to save Wood for when AD sits.
I will say, though, when it comes to Darvin Ham's usage of Jackson Hayes, it's been very limited at best.
It's been curious to me. It's been very curious to me. There's been a few lineup choices that I haven't really been able to wrap my head around as to the why. I don't.
Well, they're playing 5 out. Jackson Hayes is useless in a 5 out. That's the problem.
But that's just
dribble handoffs and set picks. That's all he can do there.
So what? We can only play one style of basketball like that.
Well, that's stupid. I think we should be playing. Playing 4 out with the dunker. Jackson Hayes in the dunker role is perfect, man.
Or call me crazy, playing out of the post with LeBron and Hayes down low. That's LeBron's.
We have a whole bunch of. We have better players. We have better players to play 1 and 4. And throw the ball down to throw it to LeBron, throw it to AD, throw it to a half a dozen guys in the post than beating the guy in a 5 out. We don't have guys who can beat guys off the dribble, but we got guys who can beat guys in the post.
That's
what I'm saying. Rui in the post.
We've got 4 guys who could be excellent post players, and we choose not to play that way. Well, not just LeBron, everybody. There's no AD in the post plays.
Well, I see them doing it with Rui. They're doing it a little bit with Rui.
He does it himself. He gets the ball and he backs his own man down and gets into the post. Yeah. That's not running a post play.
Right.
that's somebody saying, "Oh, I got a small guy on me. I'm going to back him into the post and I'm going to score over him." We don't take advantage of that.
That's the ultimate. That's the ultimate tease of Rui, that he could be a Kawhi Leonard type.
So James Worthy was saying before the game. James Worthy was saying something similar to the game before the game last night. He was like, I think the Lakers really see a lot of potential in Rui Hachimura because of his size, because of his strength, because of his touch. And I agree, but it needs to show up. And that's why.
Sure showed up last night, man. 4 steals. That was incredible.
Yeah, he had a great game. And so that circles back to my question: if we see so much potential in a guy? Why doesn't he? Why not start him over Cam Reddish, who has so many offensive limitations?
Well, I think it's because of defense. Yeah, it's a defensive position. We need a guy at the 2. We need defense in the backcourt. Rui can't do that. Good as he is, he cannot play backcourt defense. You're not going to put him on a guard.
Yeah, that's probably fair.
But that's why we can't leave Reeves and Russell out there. They have to move one of them. And so I need to move the right guy.
And the chat agrees with us. No more Reeves and Russell to start games. It's over. If the Lakers,
the proof's in the pudding, right there, guys. When it comes to the numbers
on and on. I like the idea of Reeves and 4 bigs closing the game. Reeves and 4 forwards closed this game.
Yeah, I was going to say that was how we ended up last night. Well, listen, I think that both Hachimura and Reeves have a lot of potential. Obviously, the Laker front office thinks they have a lot of potential. The X factor in this equation then becomes Darvin Ham, right?
Yep.
Darvin Ham not wanting to do something because none of us really know why. There's not a good reason that he gives us after or before games. And so
there are a lot of reasons that are in the soup that makes a coach make that decision. Players' feelings, the long-term situations with them. wanting to give a guy a little more chance, wanting to keep motivations up and so forth. So on an individual game, I don't think it matters. I think that, and especially over a long season, it probably doesn't matter, because what it's all about is building a rapport with your players, building a trust with your players. And I think that one of the strengths of Darvin Ham, when we're talking about all of this criticism of his coaching decisions, his rotations, and how slow he is sometimes to make moves, his biases in certain things and such. One thing that I think is critically important, and it is the pièce de résistance that you have to have as an NBA coach, with that ability to connect with your players, to really develop a trust with your players.
I agree.
That they will do that. And I think Ham, that's his special skill.
I agree. Reeves alluded to as much when he talked about how he and Darvin had a not just like he told me, but like an actual conversation, right? Yeah. Like, this is what I'm thinking. This is what I see. Let me hear what you have to say about it. I'm sure you're not happy about this, but let's have an actual conversation, human to human.
And that rubs off on the way that LeBron also deals with his people, the way that he goes into the locker room and immediately pulls Cam over and says, "See, man, what I told you I'd pass you that ball again, and you made that shot."
Yep.
And then you got D'Lo running out there to congratulate Ham when he sacked the entire fourth quarter.
Oh, D'Lo's cool. He's getting paid.
I mean, D'Lo has just been such a great mentor to a lot of these young guys. And you listen to Hayes talk about it and Reddish talk about it, and it's all which none of that is the kind of stuff that I was hearing in the Mike Brown situation when they fired Mike Brown. And this whole comparison that and I'm sorry, Gerald, this whole comparison of trying to create a Darvin Ham moment, on the anniversary of Mike Brown's firing, I think is totally out of league. I don't think there's even a thought in the Lakers that they have the wrong coach. They know they have the right coach for this team.
But do we think they have the right coach?
Yeah, I go back.
All of us, but most of us do.
I go back and forth.
I think that's changing, Tom. I really think that's changing.
We'll see. This is the thing, right? This is what's gonna. So two things. One, does this lineup change stick? If we go, because Tom had a good point, we should at least be looking at 6-1 over the next 7 games, right?
Right.
This is going to be one of the easiest weeks of the
NBA.
We
have.
This should be a place where the Lakers gain ground and move back up in the standings.
So they better give a damn when they get on the court and not play like they did in Houston, man.
So if they don't, now I think you will be talking about a different type of situation when it comes to the enthusiasm the front office has about Darvin Ham. Because look, you can say oh, you didn't give me a shooting guard or whatever you want. You got tools, buddy. And if you're not using them, and if you're so stubborn that you're going to wait games upon games on games to make simple changes, that there's only one place the buck stops at that point, and that's not being unfair.
So what's the simple change that you think that he has to make?
I think they have to run the offense through LeBron at the elbow for at least 4 or 5 possessions a game to break up the defensive schemes, because right now the Lakers are extremely. They
need to change the 5-out set. 5-out sets are not working.
I don't know.
You need to get somebody. You need to get some action down low where you're closer to the basket.
They need to not be. We're one-dimensional,
right?
And this is why it's easy to rebound against us. Everybody's too far from the basket. We're not getting offensive rebounds because everybody's standing at the 3-point line. Yep. You can't just yell at people, you got to cross the boards. It's like 15 feet. Somebody's already got position on you. Some of the things Ham says makes me marvel that he was ever a player, because
you can't strategize rebounding.
you can't, right? And that was
that's what he did as a journeyman player.
Right? This is why I'm mystified at how bad we are at rebounding. I'm you must understand the value of closing the possession. You say you do, yet you stick with this inane offensive schematic, because I can't really understand why. It's not. And this is how he was last season with the 3-guard lineup. He beat it to the ground to the point where it was you're going to get fired this year. You're not going to be year 2 Laker head coach. When you miss the playoffs, you're going to get fired. and then it finally sunk in. Well, and all that, and we got better players, but like between letting them run a little bit more screen and roll, which we barely run 2-man games.
Well, but that's what we switched off in the fourth quarter. We really saw Reeves and LeBron isolate themselves.
Okay, but is this the new way? Is this the new way, or was this an adjustment because we were going to lose 4 in a row on the road trip?
No, listen, I don't disagree. I don't disagree with the general criticism.
Drop to 2-6.
We need to make some changes.
2-6 is hot seat territory, man. 2-6 is starting to get, once you do 2, or 3-7, whatever it was.
Yeah, but 11-5 will be fine.
If we had started another 2-10 start like last year,
he'd be gone.
That seat is very warm, Tom.
No, he'd be on the way out. It would take an incredible and immediate turnaround. This is the thing. It's not. I don't think it's about his style.
Well,
I think he's a very congenial.
The one. Well, let me add this before I forget this whole point. I think
Sure.
You're right that if we did have a 2-10 start this year with this roster, last year's roster was really at that point in time was a 2-10 roster. This year's roster is not a 2-10 roster. So if we had a 2-10 roster at this point,
but nor are we a 4-5 roster, right? Like we should be at least a 500 team, if not plus 500.
No, I don't.
You're not.
I don't think anybody's ignoring the fact that.
And for a guy who built his career on toughness, who preaches toughness, we're not a tough team.
Now, one thing I want to ask you, though, guys, about Darvin Ham, getting back to him again, is what Derek is pointing out in the chat, and truly appreciate him and everybody else in the chat, the best Lakers chat room that's out there, the Lakers Fast Break.
And all the shout-outs to Sean. All the shout-outs to Sean have been nice.
Absolutely. Truly appreciate it. I let Sean know that already here in the
I
DM'd him as far as that's concerned, and just want to make sure
everybody into the DMs, huh, Gerald?
Yeah, well, his DMs, and I made sure to check on him. He's holding up. Let's just put it that way. But he does need your prayers and thoughts out there. Yikes. I do want to make sure that Derek's words, Derek Grimsley, he's in our chat saying some great things in regards to the defensive end, something that the Lakers thrived on after the trade deadline. That's part of the reason, a big part of the reason why they made such the push that they did in the playoffs is their defense. Something we've seen not at the same level this time around. Again,
that's a direct correlation to Vando, but go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, the team is second in the league in blocks, but as we saw with the rebounding edge, the teams are getting second and third chance opportunities time and time again.
Yeah.
What do we need to do on the defensive end? Of course, the offensive end we talked about, definitely ditch the 5 out. Obviously, all the options that you guys are talking about were excellent ideas, but the defensive end, obviously it starts with, getting Austin Reeves and D'Lo out of there from doing a set together as little as possible. That helps a lot as far as the defense is concerned. But what other measures can you guys think of as far as that will help the defense out?
Switch everything. The worst defensive combination that you can do is to try to fight around on the perimeter, to fight around screens, and then follow your guy into the key. Because in the key, our big man is going to not allow anybody to get behind him, which means he's going to keep backing up, and we're just live bait for floaters and mid-range jumpers in the easy area. And the way to prevent that is just simply to switch everything. And that's what you do when you get the bigger lineups, because the bigger lineups basically have the ability to step back a couple of steps, not as close. They don't have to be as close in order to challenge shots. And so you're able to keep people in front and switch. The last thing we want with a drop coverage defense for our bigs is to have our guards follow guys and get locked up and put in jail and going around picks. You just cannot do that. You just have to switch that stuff. Now, the worst part about that is it works into the hands of teams who want to isolate your worst defender. So you have to balance that by.
Gonna say that sounds like a recipe for
Reeves and if you have Reeves and Russell both out there, my God, it's so easy, Yeah. But if you have only one guy, let's say you have Russell is the only guy you got out there that you got to cover at one time, or Reeves, only one of them is out there on the court. You got 4 other guys who can cover for them. That makes it a lot more palatable, and you have more options. But if you want to cut down on 3-point shooting and you want to keep guys in front of you, there is no better way to do that than switching.
I think there's some hope in that scheme. I think that it's even simpler than that though. Like we're not executing fundamental basketball. Shot goes up, we're not putting a body on guys.
Yeah.
It's that simple. It's not.
Yeah, but nobody does that in the goddamn league anymore, man. I don't know how you change that.
Right. This is not rocket science. The first guy to put a body on somebody is if they go over your back, okay, maybe you don't get the call every time, but you will start to get the call.
Why go over
Jumping
the back?
and reaching
around
seems to be
and get in front of them? I mean, what happened to?
I was saying jumping and reaching seems to be the only thing the Lakers do.
That's all they do. They put and that's you can't blame any single one guy. It's a team wide issue. So that means it's a coaching
league wide issue. It's a league wide issue. All of it.
Yeah, but I mean, I mean, whatever. Like some people get then you're gonna lose. If you're not going to execute fundamental basketball, you're going to lose. And like, it's great that we're all cute and buddy, and we all like each other now in the NBA, and we're all great pals and hang out in the off season. Except nobody likes Dylan Brooks, so he has to go to like the arcade by himself. But like, other than that, like, get over yourself, play hard.
Now, one of the things,
just suck it up and go kick some butt.
One of the things that Derek is pointing out is the number of wide open threes, and that's something that. Some defenses in the NBA actually are designed that, he comes from Mike Budenholzer as far as that Budenholzer tree, where, as you know, in Milwaukee, that was one of their famous things to let you chuck up as many threes as possible from the outside. And they've got you locked down on the inside as far as with the Lopez's and the Antetokounmpos there. So they're going to let you go ahead and, they're letting you chuck up as many threes as possible. And for the most part, it worked. Now, there were some days when if it's teams hot from 3-point line, you're going to lose. So your thoughts on this, guys, because it is frustrating.
How do those wide open threes get open, Gerald?
Well, first of all, the rotations are bad.
But think about it a second. Let's work backwards from the wide open three. There's a wide open three, and a guy drives it to the hoop and pitches out to him, and that's the usual killer three, right? For the Lakers, the killer three is an offensive rebound, and they kick it out to a guy who's got an open three. But the reason that guy's open is because somebody beat their man off the dribble. Somebody beat their man off the dribble, and if they're in a 5-out, it's drive and kick. If they're not in a 5-out, it's drive and dish or drive and kick, one or the other. So the thing is, if you switch everything, you keep guys in front of you. It's easier to keep a guy in front of you when you switch everything, which cuts down on the number of times that there is a penetrating guard who gets into this situation where they can drive and kick. It is your best defense against 3-point shooting. Now it's vulnerable to switching onto your worst defender. It's vulnerable for good passers to pick and roll and guys rolling. You definitely need to have an Anthony Davis to patrol the ground and pick up the guys who are rolling to the hoop. But if you switch everything, it's a better complement for the drop coverage, and it's the best way that you can cut down on the number of open threes that people are taking against you.
I don't agree with Lifted has a great question in the chat.
Yes.
I don't know that I would be against that trade. I just don't think Chicago would make it.
Well, first of all, you don't have enough dollars. First of all, the dollars are the issue.
Money wise, so you got to throw another because both. Caruso makes more than.
I think you have to throw another 2 players. It would be a 4 for 2, just to let you know, Lifted, because Levine's contract.
Caruso and
Levine for D'Lo and Reeves, and you're about 15 million short there. So it'd have to be like D'Lo, Reeves.
I'm not a fan of that.
I wouldn't hate it. But it's an incomplete trade because you have to put in at least another.
Right.
Big Sofo adds on to that.
I'd love to get Caruso. I don't think that I think we have bigger needs than Caruso, but I'd love to get him. Wish we never lost him. But I'm not a big DeRozan fan, even though I admit that a DeRozan or a Bogdanovich would be a very useful tool on this team. I think that the coach that we have, the way that we built the team, that it's awful hard to go out and not make sure that you're bringing in as much defense as you are offense, and no matter what you do at the trade deadline. So I see the balance. You bring in Caruso and DeRozan. Caruso can cover. You got one great defender and one great offensive person. But I would rather have Buddy Hield and Miles Turner if I was going to do that type of bring in an offense and a defensive person. Because I think we need
for
to get
over a year.
Oh,
over a year.
Give me Miles Turner. Give me Miles Turner and
for years, Gerald,
and,
for years.
Caruso.
I do want to say, though, big shout out to Big Sofo in Serbia. He's asking who you would rather have, Caruso or Levine, because you're talking about extreme opposites. One is a perimeter defender, deluxe. The other is more of an offensive-minded individual who can't play defense or who doesn't want to play.
If I was trading for Chicago, that's the trade I would make.
No, which one would you prefer?
Caruso.
And big shout out to you, Big Sofo in Serbia.
Caruso, it's not even a question.
Well, Caruso, because he's more affordable and
he's just better. He's a better player than Zach LaVine. Zach LaVine is.
You can acquire him and still have a good team.
Yes, exactly.
You have to give up too much for
LaVine. LaVine is
at some point you need another superstar to replace LeBron at some point, man.
Is that really Zach LaVine, who can't even get his team into the play-in?
Well,
I mean, let's be honest. We're talking about a team that's loaded for a guy like him to excel, and he can't even get his team to the play-in. So that doesn't say superstar.
Yeah, because he's not a top 10 player. He's not
a. He might not be a top 20 player in my opinion. Like he might be like top 30. I don't see the. For me, the shine is off of Levine's game. It's one dimensional. He can't will his team to win. He doesn't have that secondary skill that lifts a team, whether it's defense or playmaking or some sort of intangible like hustle.
I don't know. There's some teams that also just don't have the coaching or the management to really put together a team to win.
Bill Donovan was able to make a lot out of nothing in OKC.
Yeah,
and so I don't think it's coaching.
No, but their combination of players they've always had a ceiling that was well below a championship, in my opinion.
But it should be well above a play-in.
Right.
That's my point.
Yeah, but that doesn't. There are individual players you could pluck from a dozen teams that could be game changers for the Lakers or game changers for any particular team.
The money, I think LaVine is a bad buy for any team. Let me put it that way.
Contract Sky Dweller.
I would much rather have.
I think that
players like. I don't know. If you could give me two really elite players who could start on the Lakers, even though they weren't superstars, I'd be fine with that. Buddy Hield and Miles Turner, I think, would be terrific for the Lakers.
Endorphin, it's not that he can't put the ball in the hoop. It's that it doesn't often result in a winning season.
And Endorphin,
he's a
great scorer. Nobody's trying to say
we do lack talent. We do lack a third star in being able to. LeBron is. At the end of a game, LeBron is like magic. He's going to make the right play. He's not like Kobe or MJ that are going to force their shot somewhere, and we don't have that kind of guy on the team. So I don't think Zach is that guy from that standpoint. And I don't think we have enough trade assets to get that guy.
No,
so I'd much more prefer to blow our wad, if you will, and go out and try to get a really great player who can defend and score, but he may not be a superstar. A Mikal Bridges, somebody like that who has really elite athleticism on the defensive side that could really help us as well as offense, even though he's not a superstar. I'd give up my draft picks and so forth for somebody like that before I would.
I just don't think
Trey Young or any of those guys.
Yeah, I don't think any GM sees Zach LaVine as the answer to their problems. No. That's what I'm getting at.
But if the price goes down enough,
well, it can only go down so much. He's got a contract.
UCLA boy,
he signed for 4 years, so it's not so. And he's making max money for a guy who.
Yeah, but money's the Lakers' future is a non-tax. The Lakers' future is we're not going to pay tax anymore. We're going to stay. We're going to stay right where we are, and the cap is going to rise enough that it'll be fine. We'll be fine. We'll be able to add people and keep getting better and better.
Sure. Okay. I hope that, but we'll see.
No, Yeah, I'm not afraid of that at all.
Let me just run down the numbers for Zach LaVine, everyone. For this year, it's 37 million. For next year, it's 40. The year after that is 43. The year after that is 45. He has a player option in 26 and
That's
27
actually a pretty good contract considering what was
for
the latest
48.
contract? Somebody's making like 70 or 80 million.
So when he's 31, and you already know he has iffy knees,
Yep.
$48 million, just to let everybody know.
That's probably a cheap contract by then, Gerald.
Not a cheap contract.
I don't think
That's
so.
like a $25 million contract. By then, that'll be a $25 million contract.
No, it doesn't rate. That's like,
Or maybe 30 million by
You
then.
should be making deal money at best.
okay, I know inflation's bad, Tom, but that's like superflation right there.
Gerald, who would you go after? And Jamie, who would you go after?
Well, I don't really like to talk about that now because it's November. These player contracts don't become eligible for the most part until December and January. The options
why not talk about it?
Available.
Well,
I know you talk about it. I always pitch everybody, even when you're not here, I pitch to them that you're on at Laker Tom with your crazy trade proposals. Yes, we know
I
that.
haven't made any crazy trade proposals at all recently.
No, it's true. It's true. He's been very restrained, and it's been lovely. Let's not poke the bear.
Yeah, I don't want to put that idea in your head. I'm sorry.
No, but what is missing on this team, in your opinion?
A dynamic two guard.
Well, again, perimeter defense, rebounding.
Dynamic two guard or dynamic
shooting.
One guard.
When you're one of the worst shooting teams, when you're one of the worst rebounding teams, when you're one of the worst perimeter defensive teams,
you're gonna.
Where do I start?
Where you're going to lose?
How about a replacement for Christian Wood, who we're sure to lose probably? I mean, we know that having another big. The one thing Christian Wood has proven is having a second big who can stretch the court next to him and play good defense is a winning combination.
So you're going to need to throw another like $15 to $20 million up from another player into a trade because Christian
Derek and about Luka, as much as we'd like to have him here,
Miles Turner would be a perfect fit.
Mark Cuban would roll over in his grave before he makes a trade to the Lakers of that substantiality. There's no way he would trade. No, Luka.
Oh, Luka! He's not going to trade Luka. He's
going to trade Luka.
They'd have to put him in mental hospital if he traded Luka.
Even if he does the James Harden thing where he gets upset, upset that he wants to leave. There's no way, even if he requested to go to the Lakers, that Mark Cuban would trade to him.
No,
absolutely not.
That
bridge has been burnt.
I think that there's two ways you can look at the trade philosophy for the Lakers this year. One is, like Gerald said, you're waiting for another month, right? Got about.
Then your options become more clear.
They become more clear. You also know where your team is at a little better. But I think even then, the Lakers are going to wait till January, much like they did last season. I think as long as they're in the mix for a playoff spot and not like wholly out of the play-in games, they'll tread water like they did last season. Come late January, early February, they'll start kicking some tires on stuff, and that's not just the Lakers. That's most of the league at that point. And then I think you got to look at a team like Sacramento or teams that were projected to be in the mix a little more than they are and might be having some second thoughts about some of their guys. I think there's some guys. I don't think they would trade De'Aaron Fox, but they might trade Harrison Barnes. Things like that.
Does that really move the needle for you at this stage of his career?
I think it does. I think that there's.
I'm sorry, I don't.
It depends on what you're trying to get. Are you trying to get somebody who you're going to build around for the future, or are you going to try to get somebody who has the skills and the ability to help you win this season right now? You're not going to trade. We don't have the trade assets to trade for some young up and coming stud of a player. We just don't have it. We're not going to get Mikal Bridges. We're not going to get Cam Johnson. We're not going to get all these guys who are going to be blowing up the league in 3 or 4 years. We don't have it. We don't have the guys those teams want. We don't have the draft assets those teans want.
Well, we might be looking for another Rui Hachimura, another Christian Wood, another.
Those are all
players out there that fit our mold, who we've had interest in the past.
So Devotion has a question for because Tom has been fixated on Miles Turner for over a year now, and he's asking how much better would Turner be in the lineup over Wood? Now, the fact is they're not going to trade Turner and Hield when they're having the most dynamic offense in the NBA and they've got a 6-3 record. So I don't know how long that will last as far as the record
Right.
above 500 part, but their offense right now is so dynamic. It would be hard to have them let go of Miles Turner, who is probably one of the main sources of their defense.
Yeah, I don't see them.
Call it that at this time.
I don't see Indiana
It
moving.
just depends what they're offered. If they're offered a 2029 first round pick unprotected and let's say a 28 pick swap, those are like potentially 2 post LeBron first round draft picks that could be top 5 picks very easily. That's the type of offer that the Lakers have not made for anybody yet, but we're starting to see now that unprotected picks are being thrown around. And that's the gold star of unprotected picks, a post LeBron Lakers pick. So the Lakers are either going to save that, hopefully to use it for replacing LeBron at some point with other picks, or they're going to use it to try to cash in and win one more with LeBron before. But they have some draft capital that it just takes the right particular situation where it could be extremely valuable. It's not a pick it's a pick that probably would get moved in numerous deals throughout, through the next few years if it was actually put on the table.
I think
for me, Derek, it's too early to speculate on it. I really don't want it because, Commander, it's based on where those teams are at in the course of that part of the season. Plus, if there are any players that fall out of favor, like we saw with Rui Hachimura, he fell out of favor in Washington. You saw that what happened there. You saw what happened with Vanderbilt and D'Angelo Russell. Same thing in Minnesota. Those guys fell out of the rotation or fell out of favor in one way or the other. That's how we were able to go ahead and land those guys in the trades that we did because of what went on. And, when you see Minnesota, they wanted to get rid of D'Angelo Russell and bring in a different type of point guard. And so far this season, that different type of point guard in Mike Conley has worked out for them. So when it comes to what the Lakers, and again, great question, but I don't want to speculate 8-10 games into the season, what players will be available because it's just a moot point. It's just like you're reaching at straws and like you're hoping and you're praying that a Luka or an individual like that, or even a Kyrie Irving can come over here. Let's see who becomes available. Let's hear who the rumors are. Let's see where these teams stand in January and February. Then you get a better idea who becomes available and who we should go after.
I do.
A lot of the players that you might want to trade for too are going to be the players that were included as a filler in these trades. Because a lot of those trades end up with guys going to teams that aren't going to keep them at all. And those are the guys that all of a sudden become available in the secondary trade market. So,
but Derek's asking,
people will be waiting. Jamie's right that people are going to be waiting until somebody makes a big trade. And once a big trade is made, those players that went on the trade probably aren't going to be staying at the team where they got.
So what about the Lakers?
That'll open things up and it'll change, but the Lakers are going to sit there waiting and hoping that Trae Young will want to be traded, that Levine will want to be traded, that any big name that they've pursued in the past wants to be traded, because even if that trade doesn't happen with the Lakers, it opens up all sorts of possibilities for the Lakers to become part of that series of trades that involve, and then pick up key players that they could pick up 2 or 3 key players that would make them a better team based upon how people perform in the next 2 or 3 months. We'll see how Hachimura does. Does he play like the Hachimura in the playoffs or like the regular season and so forth?
My answer to Derek's question is it depends on how well D'Lo and Hachimura play. If they
play
well,
make the wholesale changes again like they did at last trade deadline.
Yeah, those are the only. Basically, you're only going to get a good player back for D'Lo and Hachimura, or D'Lo and Reeves, one of those, or some combination thereof.
Hachimura and
you just don't have enough salary. You can't not take back salary.
You have to include Vincent. You have to include Vincent because he's $5 million, and Shaquem was $4 million. So that'll give you $9 million that you can include along with.
If you're trading 3 who were expected to be rotation players for one guy, is that? Yeah,
but you got other guys. You got Hayes and Reddish, which are not in the rotation in a lot of people's minds. We have a 12-man rotation, so we could easily trade 3 for 1.
I guess I don't
And end up with solid
I don't
10.
necessarily agree with that logic. I don't see that logic, but I mean, I guess
the problem is that it gets harder the later you are in the season because teams have to cut people in. And
I mean, let's put it this way: we were able to trade Russ, right? We were able to break Russ's deal up into 3 or 4 decent players, and that helped the team. So now, is the philosophy to revert back to consolidating 3 or 4 of those guys into one guy, or is it to make a fringe change?
I hope it's to trade 2 or 3 guys for 2 or 3 guys, and use the pick to get a big upgrade, either at point guard or at center.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure. I'm not sure exactly what the move is for the Lakers
because
there's so many areas.
What's available is going to determine a lot. And what move.
Yeah, no, I agree. And the biggest problem really is that there's so very many issues right now. One player is not going to make them go away. One player is not going to turn the rebounding and the defense. And
we haven't even seen the whole team play yet.
And that's the other problem. Is like how if Vando can't come back from left heel bursitis, and
what's the latest word on his comeback?
I think he's gonna get reevaluated on Monday or tomorrow when they get back from the road trip.
Because that's 2 weeks. They said they were going to reevaluate him in 2 weeks, and that 2-week period is around Monday. Just to let you know.
So I'm thinking Monday we'll hear whether they're going to let him start to break. And that, even if they say like, okay, now you can go practice, that doesn't mean he's going to like turn around and start playing.
No, but it's good that we've got a good 7-game stretch of winnable games while he's still out. Hopefully by that time he'll be back for sure, I think.
But yeah, I mean, I think a lot of people in the chat are kind of sharing, agreeing with what we've basically been bandying about here. Is that like the D'Lo Reeves starting backcourt is not producing the result. It's not producing the results anybody hoped for. Yeah. And I think both players would say the same thing. Reeves basically said the same thing. He was like, kind of was expecting it. Wished we had been winning as it was the way it was, but we weren't. So. I make less, he basically could have said, I make less money. So I was going to be the one that was going to the bench. Right. You know what I mean? And D'Lo's contracts is really just for this year. Contract year for D'Lo. He's not going to the bench, right?
I think Ham made the right choice.
I think so too. And you saw Reeves close the game. So we'll see. And I think that all this trade stuff and all this coaching stuff always happens with the Lakers because it's the Lakers, because it's early in the season. And it's just too early. It's just too early. We're 10 games in, right? We're 10 games in. It's not even. We're not even 20% of the way through the season, and I generally try not to evaluate the team till we're about 20% of the way through the season. So we're about halfway to that point. So, is it the start we wanted? No. Could it have been worse? I suppose. Could it have been better? Of course. But LeBron's not going to come out of the gates gangbusters. Everybody wants AD to become the next Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. He's just not. It's just not going to happen. He's just Anthony Davis, and that's fine. It's the other guys who we were counting on to step up that haven't really stepped up yet. The Reeves, the D'Los, the Hachimuras. They've either been hurt. We expected more out of Vincent. He's been hurt. We expected Jared Vanderbilt to play. He hasn't. So there's a lot that it goes into why.
Imagine if we didn't have as deep a team as we do.
Right. This could have been a lot worse.
We could be on a route for a 2-10 start.
We could be looking at an 0-for start, other than maybe, a game or two where we shot lights out. But let's be honest, this team isn't built for the regular season. Teams like Houston, OKC, young teams, they're just going to run. They're going to run us into the ground. We've played a lot of young teams to start the season off, or we've played teams that know what they're doing. Denver knows what they're doing. Pheonix is still figuring it out. That's why we've had a good luck against Pheonix, and they've been hit with a lot of injuries too. So you just have to make your breaks where you can, and you got to fight.
Sunjin was just killing. I mean, we had nobody to defend. Nobody to defend without a center there.
Yeah, and Vincent, I think a problem child brings up Vincent in the backcourt. Vincent, is not here, and he hasn't played well. He's played terribly.
Well, you know, it's interesting. His defensive ratings are not bad, and his
No,
net
but
net ratings are not bad
His
either.
assist to turnover ratio is the best on the team so
Right.
far. Early sample
Yeah,
size,
he
but
just
he
can't
is
get tight in the barn,
absolutely.
man. His shot is off.
He is a streaky shooter, everyone. Again,
And-
that's what
yeah.
he's been throughout his entire career. He'll
Yeah.
go on a hot streak, he'll go on
Yeah.
a cold streak, and he started this season on a very cold
Very,
streak.
very
Well,
cold.
we started so cold that it was almost expected that we were going to have a hot streak like we did.
Ice cold, baby.
yesterday.
And if any of the guards are going to be moved, everyone out there, it's going to be D'Angelo because of his contract. Because remember, he has a player option for next summer, so
He's
most
basically on
likely
one.
his is easier to
It
move.
could basically be an expiring contract for D'Lo, and that's why everybody.
That's how you put the money together because it's
right.
D'Lo. You got two guys who are paying. One guy got the MLE and one got the BAE. Those two guys are $15 million, $20 million between the two of them.
Yep.
So
let me ask you this.
And D'Lo is the logical. You combine those together and you could bring back two players.
Derek says, "Hey Gerald, do you all believe that our shooting will improve through the season because we have good 3-point shooters?" I mean, the averages will bear out, Derek. I don't think we're still a good 3-point shooting team. I said that from the beginning. Average at best, but we do have some career mid to high 30% shooters. We went actually after yesterday's game, which we shot 44%. We went from 29 to 31% in one game. So we're getting a little bit better, but I anticipate us being maybe at best a 34 to 35% team, probably around 33, 34% for the season, just because of where we're at. But I do see us getting a little bit better, but that should not make us reliant on a 5-out type of offense when we're better suited for different things. Plus, also we need to hit the boards a lot better and a lot more.
Yep.
But let me ask you this, and this leads into through the wires question. You know, we've seen the highs of this week, and we've seen the lows of lows this week as well with what's gone on in Phoenix and Houston. You know, coming back home, this is going to be the easiest week of the season as far as the quality of teams that we're going to play. The next series of games leading into next week are going to be relatively easy, and these are must-win games for us because we have to get right. Your thoughts, though, on this past week and on this road trip? I mean, it could not have gone almost could not have gone any worse than it did, especially the dumpster fire in Houston. Your thoughts, how you felt after Houston, guys? How mad were you? I said that.
No, I mean, I thought
Laker Tom hit his TV.
Did you watch the whole game? Is the question really?
Yeah, I did. And
I didn't watch the fourth quarter.
I had to be on playback, so that tells you the answer right there.
Yeah, you were there the whole game. But listen, I thought that the Houston game showed us how important Anthony Davis is, even when he's not scoring.
Really?
Because we couldn't get a rebound, we couldn't control the paint, and that's where AD excels. And so this season doesn't work without Anthony Davis being on the floor for the majority of the games. We don't have the personnel. And look, this isn't a knock against Wood. This isn't a knock against Hayes. They're big guys, but you know, Damian Jones was a big guy. He couldn't fill AD's shoes when AD was out. So this is the only guy, honestly, and this is weird to say, but the only guy who was scrappy enough to come close to matching AD's production last season when he was out was Thomas Bryant. The only reason the Lakers stayed afloat in the middle of the season when AD missed like a month and a half was Thomas Bryant and Russ playing 5% better. That was it. Because there was a stretch of games where AD and LeBron were out where I was like, this is it. The season's gone. We're not coming back from this. And they were able to actually kind of stay afloat. And that's what made that run at the end even possible when it was different players. But there's nobody with that energy level on the team right now. Nobody plays with the same energy Thomas Bryant played with. Nobody until Vando gets back. And then, you know.
And Vando can't play. And Vando can't play the 5.
And Vando can't play the 5.
Your point raises a big question, Jamie, that maybe the Lakers' top priority, I mean, we know we've got a huge priority at guard, but maybe the top priority should be getting another center who can defend.
Because in the playoffs, AD is going to be the center.
Yeah, but what if he's not there? Or what if he's injured?
Well, then it doesn't matter. Then this is all. Well, there's nobody we're going to get that's replacing what AD does.
Or what if he just can't be? If he's like 90% or 80%.
Yeah,
Or
we're going to lose. There's nobody we're going to.
No, I think you're belying the point that.
No, I'm
that we really need to look at where our vulnerabilities were. Our biggest vulnerability was the backup shooting guard situation.
Well, let's start with this, guys. What do the Lakers need to do in the first quarter? Because the first quarter, as Magic Man said before, he had to take some time off. Through 8 games, the Lakers had the worst point differential ever in NBA history. And it didn't get any better by being down once again against the Suns. The Lakers, I feel, it's so hard for them to continually go uphill each and every game.
Yeah.
Your thoughts on what they need to do to get off to a better start in the first quarter?
Play better.
Switch everything.
Thanks. That was so in depth, and that was just so deep.
Listen, we've been, but it's the same things that have been.
We've been saying it all along.
Yeah, these are all the same issues, right? It's not.
Obviously, they need to play harder,
make more baskets,
more shots,
how about that?
More rebounds.
Yes, that's right, Joe.
But truthfully, the way to do that is to put the right guys on the court.
There's no use overthinking it, right? There's no use overthinking. If you have to believe that the coaching staff is smart and capable enough that if there was something that they thought they could do differently, which I guess they did last night when they swapped Reeves and D'Lo, and we still got cooked in the first quarter, so that didn't solve that. It's be better. Just stop sucking in the first quarter. Like, be ready to play. We had the same issue with the third quarter last season. Come out at halftime and it was like, where'd the team go? What's going on?
Lineup data, and if it's not working, change it.
But I mean, I wish
that's simple, man. Coaching 1A.
I wish that it was that simple, but Darvin Ham.
It is.
Well, for you, yes. For
of course,
others,
I'm a fan. I'm not the coach.
That's right. You got no horses. Your ponies are all at home. I don't know that there's you're not going to get a lot out of LeBron. He's going to ease himself into the game. You're not going to get a lot out of D'Lo. He just doesn't play with that level of aggression. He just doesn't. You can't expect him to come out and look to score 15 points in the first quarter. He just doesn't play like that.
Well, he's been playing a little bit like that lately.
No, he's just too cool. He's too cool for school.
Last night he was off to a quick start.
Yeah. But I don't know. I don't know that there's a magic solution for the Lakers' first quarter woes other than to be more execute.
One good solution is play teams that aren't as tough. Because when you look at seriously, when you look at the teams that we played, our schedule, for the first 9 games versus the next 7 games.
Yeah, I hear you.
It's pretty dramatic, and
that's true.
Teams you didn't expect. I mean, Houston
it's funny.
It's
a funny strategy. Play the weaker teams all the time.
Really. No, it's just that.
Dear NBA, we would like to
play
a
small sample size, and it's early, and we've been injured with missing a lot of guys.
Yeah, but I think High Octane is on the same trajectory that Laker Tom is. We don't use their size to our advantage, and I tend to agree. I think that Jackson Hayes has more of a role than we've seen him have.
I'd actually start Jackson Hayes. I wouldn't have a problem with starting Hayes at center and let him play 7 minutes in each half.
Now,
but
one thing Southern Comfort mentioned was LeBron back at point guard.
Yeah.
I think, if you have LeBron back at point guard at times, I don't mind. The thing is, though,
who's he going to guard?
The more you have LeBron there, well, it's switching, Tom. Didn't we just talk about the switching defense?
Yeah, one of the problems and frankly, here's another point.
Expect more of those outside
problems with the Lakers' transition defense is all of the cross matching.
Yeah. This is the thing, right?
It's a lot easier when the guy you're guarding is the guy you got to cover on the other end of the court, rather than having to look around and say, where the hell is the guy I'm guarding?
Yeah.
That's what screws up a lot of our transition defense, as well as Anthony Davis going down to the ground,
Well, that's not going to stop. He's
trailing,
A stiff wind blows AD down.
I mean, he and Embiid give up so many fast break points just because they're on the ground.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. There's no magic bullet. There's no magic bullet that's going to fix it just doesn't exist. So they got to. I think the key is to execute better. They got to be better fundamentally. They've got to reacquaint themselves with the idea of boxing out and do basic stuff like that. The solution isn't in some magical lineup change that suddenly unlocks all of these wonderful combinations that just didn't exist before. I don't see that really happening. You know, and it's not in Darvin Ham's wheelhouse to make changes.
Right,
like
he
that.
may have made the change that had a big effect. Let's see if we have the same effect in the next game.
We still gave up 36 points in the first quarter.
Yeah, we still had a bad
night.
first quarter, Tom.
Yeah, we gave it. It was 36-28 in the first quarter. It was just like we couldn't.
Well, I know we just need to go big in the first quarter. It's so fucking simple.
We'll see. Oh, there's an edit.
There's one. Okay.
Okay. Sorry, Gerald, but there's a point. There's a point where frustration just.
126, Gerald. 126.
I just got it.
All right. Anyway, I gotta get going, guys. We've been doing this for most of the morning now.
I'll tell you what, though, it's been great having you guys here. Jamie does have to go on this great Lakers weekend. So does Lakers Tom. But please, before we end on out, join Lakerholics.com. It's no cost. No, just stop on by, check it out.
We're always very friendly, especially the new guys.
Yeah, especially new people. It's just to each other, they're not as always friendly. But before we head on out, please give the hard pitch. What are you guys working on at Lakerholics.com?
A $5 for last night's game still.
Okay. All right.
I've got this is ridiculous. I've got 8 articles halfway finished. I just can't seem to finish anything lately, so it's been a struggle. I still think that we're running the wrong sets, and we need to go big, and we need to focus on that. And I'm hoping that Ham is going to make the right decisions. I think all of the numbers say that our best lineups are our biggest lineups. Our best players tend to be the biggest players, and we just need to find those right combinations and get them in the right sets. And I think that the 5 out is just not a good offense for us at this point in time. I also think that defensively, we really need to switch everything. And as we get the bigger lineups in there, I think that the players that we have on those bigger lineups are better fits for a switch everything offense or a switch everything defense. So I'm encouraged by what's happening with the Lakers, and I'm just waiting for Darvin Ham to catch up with me.
There you go, indeed. Oh my gosh. There you go, indeed. Once again, it is Lakerholics.com. Please go ahead and support the Lakerholics at Lakerholics.com. Big shout out and prayers go to my good friend, Sean Grice. I conveyed already your thoughts out there in the chat in regards to your prayers and thoughts to Sean.
What's the deal with Sean now?
I cannot comment on the air publicly. That's up to him. I just say he has a family emergency he's been dealing with, and he's in some. He just needs your help and thoughts and prayers right now. If you can, and these people, the audience is stepping up. They're conveying it, and I have conveyed that to him, and he has conveyed back to me, and to let you know out there, he is so appreciative of everyone's thoughts and love and prayers out there. So thank you very much. Appreciate it from the bottom of my heart that you're giving the love to Sean now, because he truly needs it, and truly appreciate it. Lakerholics.com. Please go ahead and support the guys today at Lakerholics. You can hear this banter back and forth and read it back and forth all week long, actually, at Lakerholics.com. Go ahead and check them out today. But of course, Jamie, Tom, great to have you here. Big shout out to the best Lakers chat room that's out there, the Lakers Fast Break. Actually, again, Joe Sorrell, hopefully be traveling back from Pheonix. Hopefully he'll be back with us tomorrow for our coverage. Tomorrow's coverage starts off with the pregame tomorrow in the afternoon. Then we'll go ahead into the 7 o'clock game against Portland. I believe it's a 7 o'clock start time. I know it's a little bit later for a Sunday game. Yeah, because it's usually Sunday at 6, but Sunday at 7 this time around. So Sunday at 7, please join us. Playback.tv/Lakers Fast Break. That's playback.tv/Lakers Fast Break. And then, of course, the best post game that's out there can only be found right here at the Lakers Fast Break. So for Jamie Sweet and his wonderful daughter, who looks like he wants to go ahead and spend a lot more time with than us right now, and deservedly so. She deserves more attention than Laker Tom. Absolutely. All right. Always great to have her here on the show. And of course, Laker Tom, I'm wishing all of you a fantastic Lakers weekend, and we'll see you tomorrow right here as part of Lakers Weekend at the Lakers Fast Break Podcast.